Hey guys, Phil here from PRC Taping. Today we continue the Columbia Taping Tools how-to series on the automatic taper. So as you guys probably know, the automatic taper is one of my favorite tools to run. There are many ways you can tape a house, but the automatic taper is, in my opinion, the cleanest and fastest way and most efficient way of doing that. So I'm gonna get into some very basic how-to stuff in this quick video for you. So for those of you that aren't familiar with the automatic taper, I'm gonna go through that right now, the basics of it, how it works, how it functions, and how to get it all set up. So what the automatic taper is, it's basically a long tube that gets filled with mud using a mud pump through this filler valve right here. After you fill that, you have your roll of tape that's spooled on here. It goes right through this mechanism, coming out through the top. And once you open the gate, it will allow mud to go freely on top of the tape, pushing against the wall, and the tape will go on the same time. Mud and tape at the same time. And when you're ready to make your cut, you're gonna use this sleeve right here. That is the basics of this tool. I'm gonna get more into functionality later on in the video, how to properly hold and run it. But that is the basics of how this automatic taper works. So step one, using the automatic taper, filling it up, you're gonna have a mud pump with very thin mud, and I would suggest using a light taping compound. I use CertainTeed light taping. It has a lot of glue and it's meant for that specific reason. You're gonna have that mud ready to go at a very thin consistency. I have my taping mud for my flats different than I do my angles. So I keep my mud thinner for my angles than I do my flats, just so that the tapes aren't falling off if it's too thin. Keep that in mind. Step one, you're gonna be filling this. So after you have your mud pump all ready to go, you're gonna put this right on the gooseneck attachment, which you've seen in previous videos, and you're gonna fill that up. But before you do that, you wanna make sure that you close your gate. So this basically allows your mud flow to happen, and then it closes your gate, allowing for mud to go down through the tube and down all the way to the bottom. So you definitely want to make sure that that is closed, ready to fill. After it's full, as you're filling, you're going to put this in the gooseneck attachment, and I like to keep my fingers in the back of the tube here, and as you're pumping the tube up, you're going to keep your finger in here, and you're going to feel that piston come up. You don't want to push that too far out. You want to just make sure it touches your finger, gets to the top, don't overfill that. So after you do that, then you can open your gate, allowing the mud to go right directly onto the tape. And I like to keep a few inches hanging off the edge here, and what I do is I lift the cutter sleeve up, turn the wheel on the side, mud will go directly on the tape, and you are ready to go. So now I want to show you something that a lot of people do when they grab an automatic taper, is they will grab it directly from the cutter sleeve, which is not a good idea. So let's say it's sitting up against the wall and you go to grab it and you grab the cutter sleeve. That may or may not jam your tape up inside. Never grab the taper by the cutter sleeve until it's in your hand. So if it's sitting up against the wall, you're gonna grab it directly above the cutter sleeve, so you're not messing up and jamming the tape inside. Once it's in your hand and you're ready to go, then you transfer it to your cutter sleeve hand, then you're ready to go. Because at that point, you're not shifting your cutter sleeve all the way around, because as soon as you let go, look what happens. It falls down. So you want to make sure you're always grabbing it right above the cutter sleeve. So that's a little tip so that you don't jam your automatic taper, because when the paper tape is sitting in there and you pull this up, it's going to force that blade in and cut the tape premature, obviously, and that's not good. So you want to make sure that you don't do that. So now that we've gone over the basics of filling it, functionality of it, and you're ready to run it, I'm going to go over how you would run it on a wall and on a ceiling. So there are two things you can do when you're running it on a wall. I'm going to start with the walls, and I'm going to do the ceiling second, and then I'm going to finish on angles, because that is where most people have problems. So there are two things you can do. You have your creaser reel right here, which is activated by your right hand or your left hand, depending on how you do that. A lot of people like to use the creaser reel, including me. I like to use it as a third hand, basically helping me out while I'm working. So what I do is my mud's ready to go. I'm going to run it on the wall, and you can either run both wheels on the wall without your creaser wheel. Okay, so I'm going to run it along the wall, no creaser wheel. And that is typically what you want to do. You want to run it along your flat joints and along your butt joints with no creaser wheel. Nearing the end of your cut, right when you're about to make your cut, that is when I take my creaser wheel and just place the tapes if I have to. Mostly on the ceilings, the walls kind of fall into place as you're making those cuts, but I use the creaser wheel a lot when I'm doing ceilings. So now I want to talk about something that's really important, how you're going to run this on a ceiling. And what you want to do is you want to make sure that you're always on a little bit of an angle. You don't want both wheels touching the ceiling at the same time, because what's going to happen is if both wheels touch, mud's going to come directly out of the sides of the tape right away as you're running it, and the chances of it falling might be pretty high. So again, that's going to take practice. It's also going to depend on how thin your mud is and what mud you're using. So when you run it, you don't want to run it completely straight with both wheels on. You want to make sure that you're on a slight angle. And again, when you're reaching the end of your flat joint on a ceiling or a butt, you can use your creaser wheel just to set it in place. So that's just a little tip when running ceilings with the automatic taper. Now getting to the fun part, running angles with the automatic taper. This is where things get really awesome. You can fly with it. I love running angles with the automatic taper. So paired with a corner roller and a 2.5-inch angle head, which I've talked about in the past, is what I typically like to do. I like to have my mud a tiny bit thinner for my angles than I do my flats. And again, I use the same light taping mud for that. It has more glue in it, it's meant for taping, and you want to make sure you do that. So after you've filled your taper and you're about to run your angles and all of your flats and butts are finished, you always want to make sure you finish every single flat and butt before you do this. It kind of closes everything in and seals it up. That's how I like to see it. It seals up all your joints and you are ready to run your angles. So when you're ready to do that, what I like to do, again, set it on my foot, get this all primed up, make sure your gate's open, tape comes over, and at this point, I like to have a little bit more tape coming off the end to allow for the very minimal drag. You're gonna have a little bit of drag, every taper does, but you're gonna have very minimal drag, and you're gonna compensate for that for the amount of mud that's sticking past the head of your taper. So as you do that, you're gonna go down, you're gonna squat down, and as you get that angle in place, you're gonna directly push the creaser wheel into the corner to push that in. Don't wanna push it too hard, and you definitely don't wanna just push it soft. So you're gonna get the feel of the angle once you get in there. You definitely want to push the tape into the corner because that's the whole point. You're trying to tape that inside corner and get that in place. So now you're going up the angle or along the angle and you're getting very close to the corner. And what you want to do here is you want to make sure that you're cutting that tape a couple inches from the corner. So a couple inches is ideally how you want to do that. Again, this is going to take practice. This is probably the most common questions on how to get your tapes cut perfectly, and that is all practice. And it's in the person running it. So all you got to do is practice. Practice makes perfect. Try in a basement, try in a garage, make sure you get that down, but once you get that down, your cuts will be perfect. So I've talked about maintenance kits for the automatic taper. There are many for this. There are a lot of moving parts. Aaron's talked about it in the past. A really good one I want to just link down below here is going to be changing the blade on your automatic taper, because you want to make sure you check that. You want to make sure those cuts are nice and clean and it's always activated. So I'm just going to show you quickly how to even check that. I'm going to go from this angle. You're going to pull this right off and your blade is going to be visible right there. Blade's visible, you'll be able to see if it's good. This is brand new, obviously it's in great shape. You want to see if there's any nicks in it, if it's rusted at all, or if there's anything like that, and it's super easy to check and it's very easy to change. So I always keep a few on hand. I have a toolbox on the job site and I always keep a few just in case. You never know when you need one. So that was just a quick little overview on how to run the automatic taper. And again, this is for beginners, people that haven't really run an automatic taper before. There's a few tips and tricks you can learn in there, and I hope this video helps.
Thank you for watching. I hope you learned something today. I'd like to thank Phil from PRC Taping for helping out, and visit our YouTube channel for more videos like this.